Good afternoon, Salaam Ismail here.
Hold it. You ready?
Good.
Salaam Ismail here, founder of the National United Youth Council Incorporated. And we're here today as leaders to pay a tribute during this month of June. Part of this month is called Juneteenth, the 13th to the 19th, if you know the true story of that. Now, why Juneteenth? That's the question I ask. Why Juneteenth? What's the importance of it? Why should we pay tribute to being unchained by some evil white folks? Why that's important? And then, the truth of the matter, what we do with this knowledge that we have that 13th is a day, June 19th or whatever day it was, when African Americans in Galveston, Texas was let go, free to go. But here's the story of that. In 1862, the 16th President Abraham Lincoln actually signed the Declaration, the proclamation, on the emancipation of African slaves. One may argue why he did it. Did he do it because of the war, or because he was just sensitive to the concerns of African people? That's for you to decide. So in 1863, the law went into effect. Most of the colonized areas freed the slaves. To what? I don't know. But in Galveston, Texas, for some reason, just didn't know. The plantation didn't know, Larry. They didn't know. He didn't have a clue that his president sent out to everybody that they controlled that the slaves were free. Mind you now, 1865 is pretty modern. They had choo-choo trains, they had the telegraph, so you can get around the country pretty good. But that being said,
Too deep in the South.
you know what I'm saying? So he sent his general with the emancipation to free the slaves. So the slaves were free to go and do nothing. Because they were free without land, free without money, free without opportunity, free without even the right to vote. So what came after that? 100 years of Jim Crow. And another 65 years of the mess we got right now. So why Juneteenth? Because there's a story to tell. There's a story so deep, it's probably the most inhumane story of all times. Because not only did they hang and they killed and murdered and raped folks, but they had an impact on the systematic humanistic growth of black people. People ask why we got these syndromes and all this kind of, where it comes from. Well, it stems from a long stem of history that brought us to where we are today. So Juneteenth is important. We're here at this site. In 1741, there was a thing called the slave revolt, which started in New York City. And it spread to pretty much all the region, at least the rumor that the slaves were plotting to take over plantations and rape white women and kill their masters. It got to Elizabeth, New Jersey, when white women blamed these three blacks, one of trying to attempt to rape her, another one was stealing out of the master house. So part of that lie, it enraged white folks more, so they snatched these three individuals and they brought them to this kangaroo court, right site right here. And of course they were found guilty. By the order of William Chedworth, which was the sheriff at that time, ordered them to death, or ordered them to prepare to death, which includes death by burning by the stake. And stake is a stick, tied, that's what they did, tied them up on the stake, and then set them fire alive. And that's what happened in 1741. We in 2019 went before the freeholder body and told them about this story and demanded that there be a monument of some recognition to those 3 slaves. They gave us a whole lot of resistance. Sister Hassan, Sister Cynthia, Brother Zachariah, Brother Don, others from around the county went here and protested. We done all kinds of stuff. So they finally going to now, at our choice, plant a monument here sometime in September. This Friday, they're going to have a model of the monument. They don't need to tell us about that. They're going to reveal on Friday at, not Friday, Wednesday. They changed it from Friday to Wednesday, 5 o'clock. Yes, yes. And I want y'all to come to it because, right, they tried to get me out. Because I told them, you're going to do this and you're not going to invite 1741 Project. So they said, oh yeah, we let you know about it. I said, but you're going to mention about the monument without none of us there, none of us present, nobody even. I said, I tell you what, you do that. I'm bringing my bullhorn. I will be there. So they sent me another little soft note. So, oh, we want to, you guys to come and cut the ribbon, bullshit. But I'm going to grab a mic anyway. So, you want some drama, come at 5 o'clock here tomorrow. Well, I want to bring forth here an educator, a teacher, a lecturer, an activist, a man's man. He's been in the struggle a long time.
Mike's off. You got no. That's not.
This one is O'Moore. He's a dedicated brother. He just ran for the U.S. Senate. How brave was that?
That's right.
And he's still out here in the struggle, and he's still teaching us. Like, could you please say a few words on behalf of Juneteenth?
Thank you, Salaam. Give Salaam Ismail a big hand.
Yes, sir.
National United Youth Council Incorporated, Salaam Ismail and his organization have been on the forefront of the struggle here in Elizabeth. And I'm here today because Salaam said I should be here today. And that's why I came. When he calls, I have to answer.
There you go.
Because when I call, he answers.
That's what brothers do.
It's reciprocity, as they say. And I'm glad Salaam is having this Juneteenth observance here in this spot to commemorate the deaths of those who were lynched and burned, those enslaved black people that were lynched and burned here in Elizabeth. Everybody, when you talk about slavery, they think of Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Slavery was here in New Jersey. At the time of the Civil War in 1860, there were 14,500 registered slaves in New Jersey. Perth Amboy was the second most active slave port on the East Coast, second only to New York City. And if you go to Perth Amboy, you can see that it's a deep water harbor, and slaves came through Perth Amboy. They came to New Jersey. They didn't come, they were taken to New Jersey, taken to Delaware, taken into Pennsylvania, Maryland, and surrounding areas. So I'm glad I'm here to say I support wholeheartedly the work of the 1741 Project. Let me just say a word about Juneteenth.
Go ahead.
And before I say something about Juneteenth, let me say something that's related. And that is yesterday, June 17th, was the anniversary of the massacre at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, when Dylan Roof went into the church, was welcomed by the people, sat in the church, prayed in the circle with the people, all black people. This is an AME church. They welcomed him in, and when they were finished praying, he was there for about an hour. He pulled out his automatic gun and shot 9 people, spared one only because, and he said this to her, he said, I'm letting you go so you can go and tell everybody what happened here. Now, if Salaam Ismail or Larry Ham was to go somewhere and shoot somebody and kill him, we wouldn't get from the place alive.
Tell the truth.
Dylan Root wasn't apprehended until the next day, 200 miles from Charleston, South Carolina. And then when they apprehended him, if it had been Salaam or myself, we'd have probably been beat to death on the scene. They put a bulletproof vest on him and then took him to Burger King. We must never forget the massacre at Mother Emanuel, because it is a reminder to us of where we are today. It's a reminder to us of where we are today in the struggle for black liberation. But the massacre at Mother Emanuel was exceeded by the massacre in Buffalo, New York. When that young man came to Buffalo, that young white supremacist Nazi came to Buffalo, cased the supermarket 2 weeks in advance, returned with an AR-15, went into the supermarket, top supermarket, and killed 10 people. Killed 10 people, just walked in there and shot the people to death. If it had been Nello Ramsey or Wade MacGyver, he would have been killed on the scene. He would have never made it to the police car or to the police station. What happened? They put a bulletproof vest on him and took him to the courthouse without any harm coming to him whatsoever. They do more to protect perpetrators of racial violence in this country than they do to protect the victims. So I just wanted to say that because we were on the anniversary and we have a tendency to forget things so soon. But we're here today to celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, federal troops are sent into Galveston, Texas. Why were the federal troops sent into Galveston, Texas? They were sent to Galveston because Galveston was the last Confederate state to hold out in the Civil War. Lee had surrendered at Appomattox in Virginia on April the 9th, 1865. The Confederate troops in Texas were still fighting. They refused to surrender. They fought the last battle on May 12th at Palmetto Hill, at Palmetto Ranch, outside of Brownsville, Texas. So Texas didn't want to surrender. Y'all hear a lot about Texas, right? Texas is the Lone Star State, and Texas is big sky Texas and all this. Texas was a slave state. Texas was stolen from the Mexicans.
That's right.
I went to Texas. I went to the Alamo. I went inside the Alamo. I went in the Alamo. I wanted to see where Daniel Boone was. You know, Daniel Boone was at the Alamo, right? When I was a little boy, I wanted my mother to buy me a Daniel Boone cap, right? With the tail and all of that. They could buy it right down in Woolworths. I did not know that Boone was a slave master. Sam Houston was a slave master. Austin was a slave master. They wanted to break with Texas because Texas had emancipated black people before the United States of America. And so they pulled away from Texas. And they didn't become a state. They set up the Republic of Texas and became the second biggest slaver in the Western Hemisphere. You could go to Cuba and see the Texas flag flying. You could go to Angola and see the Texas flag flying because the Republic of Texas was engaged in the slave trade. They were importing slaves into Cuba, into Brazil, into the Caribbean, and they wanted to keep doing it. And that's why those troops came into Galveston on June 19th under General Granger, who was white. Now they tell you about the troops, but they never mentioned the troops were black. The troops that came into Galveston were black men with rifles, come to fight if in fact Texas did not want to comply with General Order Number 3, which is what Granger read in the public square of Texas, proclaiming that the enslaved people were in fact free. But here's the rub. Granger was white, he had black troops. Why was that? Because if you saw the movie Glory, you would see that even though there were black Union soldiers, they couldn't have black commanding officers.
No, sir.
And that was the situation maintained in the United States military services until almost the end of World War II. That there had to be segregated troops. They couldn't have black commanding officers. So they came into Galveston to announce the emancipation. The thing I want to say, and I want to wrap up with this, the thing I want to say is this. Black people work hard. So when we have a holiday, we deserve it. And when we have a holiday, we should enjoy it. People say to party, yeah, we should party because we work hard. If you work hard, you party hard. And you enjoy yourself. But in these celebrations, when we have these celebrations, when we celebrate Juneteenth, what are we celebrating? The Civil War. Why was there a Civil War? There was a Civil War because that's what it took to end slavery. They wanted to keep the chains on your wrists, on your ankles, around your neck, keep you in the house, keep you in the field, wherever. But think about this. More people, more Americans were killed in the Civil War than in World Wars I, II, Korea, and Vietnam combined. More than 1 million Americans were killed in the Civil War. 320,000 Union troops, 258,000 Confederate troops, 350,000 civilians were killed. There was so much blood. You know, when we was in school, Wade, they made us recite the Gettysburg Address. Why did we have to recite that address? Why did Lincoln go to Gettysburg? Because Gettysburg had been a battlefield. The blood was so deep in Gettysburg, soldiers wrote home and said, I was standing waist deep in blood. Because back then, they didn't have AR-15s, they didn't have AK-47, they had single-shot muskets with bayonets on the end. So most of the fighting was hand-to-hand combat. Them men had to fight, they had to go toe-to-toe. And in one day in Gettysburg, 25,000 fell. This is what it took. And when Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation, as Salaam alluded to earlier, what was it? It was a military recruitment document. The North was not winning the war initially. Lee was beating them with fewer men and fewer resources. What happened? Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Thaddeus Stevens, Charles Sumner, they all went to Lincoln and they said, Lincoln, you need to put rifles in the hands of those who have the greatest interest in winning that war. Lincoln said, well, I don't know about that. Because Lincoln, he wasn't particular about slavery. What did Lincoln actually say? He said, if I can preserve the Union without slavery, I will. If I have to preserve the Union with slavery, I will. It was black people who saw that their liberation was at hand, and this was their moment, and they pressured Lincoln, and Lincoln gave in. And they announced the Emancipation Proclamation. It didn't free all slaves. It freed those slaves in the states, the counties, and the parishes that were in rebellion. I spoke in Patterson on Friday. I asked the 150 students I was speaking to, how many students had read the Emancipation Proclamation? Not one hand went up. So I'm saying to people here today, if we're going to celebrate this holiday, somebody needs to go down to the Board of Education and say to the Board of Education, our young people should know the history of Juneteenth, and they should at least read the damn Emancipation Proclamation. That's something, we don't need anybody to pay us to do that. We don't need a grant for that. Just go down there and tell them. How are we going to have a Juneteenth celebration and none of the students in the school system ever read the Emancipation Proclamation? It gave freedom
to those black men that could escape from the plantation, cross Confederate lines, join the Union Army. How many? 220,000 black men joined the Union forces. 186,000 joined the Union Army. 60,000 were killed. 100,000 were mortally wounded, lost legs, lost hands, lost arms. And on Veterans Day and Memorial Day, how many of us, I'm talking to black people now, how many of us go and find a monument or a grave to the Union soldiers, to the black Union soldiers that gave their lives? People talk about somebody giving a life so that you could be free. Those black men gave their lives. They gave their lives in a cause where they themselves were not even respected. The black soldiers did not receive the same pay as the white soldiers. They received less pay. Some of the black soldiers refused their pay. They fought anyway because they were fighting for the liberation of their people. They refused to be disrespected, to take half the pay of the white soldiers when they're making the same sacrifice of the white soldiers. They wouldn't get whole uniforms. Sometimes they wouldn't even get guns that work, but they fought anyway. So when we come together on Juneteenth, somebody take out a minute, take out 3 minutes, take out 5 minutes, and say thank you. Thank you to the black soldiers, to the black men that laid down their lives for the emancipation of black people. Because when all is said and done, and you can clear the smoke of our imagination, what's left is the historical reality. And that historical reality was that it took a war to end slavery. It took men to fight, and they laid down their lives. And we are not in chains today because of them. Thank you very much.
So at this time, what we need to do, can everybody step on it? We got a program, y'all. Because we got another thing across the street. So if everybody come on the sidewalk for a minute, we'll block it for a minute.
I got you.
And the sisters with the balloon kind of come together. Just kind of come in the middle. Anybody else circle? Okay, we're gonna release these balloons, these black balloons, on behalf of our 3 fallen African soldiers that they murdered here right at this site in 1741. We want to say a prayer for them, and we want to continue to be their extended arm. We are now representative of them. We're going to take them to court. By the way, in addition to the monument that we so fought hard for, what I'm going to put out there, and I may say it's Friday at the little news conference, that I want this building to be a museum. That jail is empty right now.
Okay.
They're talking about tearing it down and making it all this into a housing unit. But that's something we're going to talk about soon. So, at this time, I want to bring Brother Reverend Dr. Clyde Dunning to lead us off in prayer. And then, I don't know if we should do that after or before.
Come on, let's everybody say amen.
Amen.
Now, we just going to start off like that in the church, but amen just simply means that we're in agreement, amen?
Amen.
All right, and all hearts are joined together today on a worthy cause, on a passion that we are all joined together with. You know, I just want to share a prelude before I go forward with the prayer. And, you know, I'm reminded of a story that I used to tell, a very short story, where we were enslaved back in the 1800s. And our fantasy is we found ourselves running from the slave master because we had committed a simple atrocity, and they were out for our lives. And, you know, we ran in water, faced with alligators, in woods with mosquitoes, trying to get away from the evil slave master. And the times that we fell and we bumped our head and we woke up and we were in the modern day where we were no longer held captive by slaves. And at that time we were running, I could always remember in my voice, I would say, if I ever had the opportunity to open up my voice, to speak against the atrocities that were brought against our culture in America, that I would raise my voice. But then I think about the modern day times, that if these men who fought in the Civil War for our rights through the Emancipation Proclamation, how they fought for our rights to be equal, justice, and how they fought against us and brought about Jim Crow laws in America that hindered black men and black women from advancing. And I'm going to leave with this because I don't want to go on, because I can go on. But I want to allude to a conversation that a gentleman and I were having earlier. And we were in agreement about how they were taking out the history out of the schools, and they didn't want us to learn our history in the school. Even in Florida, there was this big controversy that they wanted to teach instead our history, why slavery was beneficial. But the truth of the matter is, it's not that they didn't want to remind us of our history. The truth is that they didn't want to be reminded of their history. Because to remind of our history is to remind them of the evil deeds that were brought upon us, and to see the struggles that we have overcome throughout 150 years of Jim Crow. In the Baptist church, we used to sing this song, "Right on, King Jesus, no man cannot hinder me." And it is evident through evolution, through DNA and determination and the will of God, that we are here today, still bright and still shining. But what throws me off is that we are still battling against one another. When I see our young generation today, with black on black crime, how we have learned to hate one another, be jealous of one another. We have learned to kick each other under the back. Come on, can I get this list? One witness out here?
Tell it like it is.
I didn't come to sugarcoat anything, because the word said that the truth shall set us free. Amen? Amen. So when we walk in false realities, we find ourselves in the very situation that we face today. Yes, we're living in the last day. God said in the last day that there will be brothers against sisters and sisters against brothers, that there will be wars, rumors of wars, that there will be lovers of self. There will be lovers of self. I call it vanity, insanity, and greed. These are the ways that we have been taught in America. We must go back to the ancestries, the passion that our ancestors felt, the passion that they went out on the fields and fought and shed blood. This is the passion that we must regain and restore. And until then, Juneteenth just becomes another pagan holiday in America. This holiday was represented to remind us of the struggle, and to keep the struggle, and to teach our young boys and our girls the history. And when they don't want to pay attention, to make sure that we're like the old community where it says it takes a village. We must force and demand our young people to listen, because if we don't, we're only forward to make the same mistakes again. I didn't mean it to go into that much, but we're going to go ahead and pray, and we're going to close out, and we're going to thank God for bringing us this far, and yet how much farther we have to go. So these balloons will elevate and signify a universal principle that extends not only to the air that we breathe, but it extends into the next heaven for the forefathers who sacrificed even right here in front of the Elizabeth County Courthouse. We commemorate their spirits today, and we give honor to them for the struggle that they have and for the torch that they have passed to us.
Raise up, raise up, raise up. So our fallen brothers and sisters, may the struggle continue. Peace and love. Go on about your business. Bring that message home. Bring it home. They got up.
Keep the fight alive. Keep the fight alive. God is with us.
So that's it for now.
Zachariah Jackson, BASA News.
We are
Good night.
closing out.